I noticed a lot of new players have been coming on my channel and been asking me questions. A lot of them have been asking what kind of units should I be looking out for, who should I plan to pull on. Well, of course, my default answer would be just pull whoever you want, but I understand what they mean by I want to get all the good units. What are the good units? The first unit that I have my eyes on is a Rubicante. He just came out. He's absolutely fantastic. I pulled on him, I greened him, I blued him, I did everything of the sort, and I think he's absolutely fantastic. He is by far the best counter tank in the game, but that's not all. He can also force charge, and he also has party fire enchant, which makes the entire party able to hit the enemy for weak damage. If you haven't pulled on Rubicante already, I highly recommend on getting him. He is going to be invaluable to your team. So the next person I'm looking at that I think would be good for new players is Aerith. I recommend everyone to get Aerith, not just new players. Her kit makes it so enemies cannot buff themselves, nor can they debuff your party. On top of that, one of Aerith's buffs is gold framed. Basically makes the party invincible to both brave damage and HP damage. And no, that's not a typo. That is 100% legitimate. I'm not trolling you here. And also, lastly, a great thing with Aerith is her BT effect has no term limit. It only expires if the party's HP falls below 50%, which if you have good tanks with you, if you have good debuffers with you, and your party's HP never falls below that threshold, Aerith's BT is infinite. I'm gonna just leave it at that. The next person I want to talk about is Quina. A lot of people have been raving about Quina, and most of that is due to her BT effect. The way her BT effect works is if your party isn't broken and the BT effect is active, you are going to be dealing the max amount of HP damage that your unit can deal every single attack. You don't have to worry about ores. You don't have to worry about, brave damage up, HP damage up, rainbow damage. You don't have to worry about any of that, because if Quina's BT effect is on and your team is not in a broken state, you're dealing max damage. That in of itself is absolutely ridiculous, and it makes sense on why everyone's hyping her up so much. And to top it all off, Quina also has trap damage. I think trap damage is a very good mechanic to have in Opera Omnia. Off-turn in any sort, I think, is very good. It kind of solidifies to me that Quina is an absolute must-pull. The next person I want to talk about is a little bit further down the line. It is Core. Core is a very simple unit to use, which is great for new players, I think. The way Core's buff works is he can select an ally. Both him and the ally he buffs are unable to be broken by the enemy. His BT effect changes it so he can choose both of the other party members to give his buff to, meaning your entire party is going to be unbreakable rather than just 2 units. On top of that, he has good defensive ores, but what also makes him really amazing in my opinion is his great off-turn damage. Core's off-turn damage, especially on the defensive side when enemies take up a lot of turns, the damage is going to rack up very fast, and he is a godsend with any particular tank that you might have. Next person I want to talk about is Rem with her BT and FR. I'm gonna try and keep this as simple as possible because Rem's kit can get a little bit complicated. Her BT effect, whenever it's on, it makes the party immortal. Your party cannot die with Rem's BT. Even that alone makes Rem indispensable unit. But on top of that, whenever Rem moves, she auto-fills the entire party's EX gauges. So everyone in your team can spam EXs when Rem's in the field, which being able to spam any strong attack is very broken in this game. Rem also has turn warping. One of her skills is able to move a selected ally after her turn. She's also very great at damage enabling. She's fantastic both defensively and offensively. Moving on, I want to talk about Astos. If you hang around enough Discord servers, you will know the giant meme that is Astos. He does one thing and one thing only: damage. And he does it the best in the entire game. And I don't even think it's close. He can easily steamroll so many bosses by his attacks alone. It's as if everyone in the game was fighting with knives and Astos came in with a gun. That helps put into perspective how broken Astos is as an attacker. He doesn't even attack. He just straight up bullies. So for new players, you absolutely should get Astos, especially if you're still building your roster. He is a great get out of jail free card. I want to talk about Quistis next. Quistis is a great delayer. With her newest rework, she does extraordinary amounts of damage, which is fantastic alone. But what's great about Quistis is her delays are a bit different than regular delays. The way Quistis delays, even if the enemy specifically has in their bio, cannot be delayed. Quistis delays still works. And with her newest rework, not only can she override the cannot be delayed, the entire party can override the cannot be delayed thing. Meaning if you have other delayers in your team along with Quistis, they also delay the boss when you're not supposed to. If you are interested in delay in any sort of the matter, I highly recommend you get Quistis because I think she's fantastic. Next up, Lenna I think is a fantastic choice to pick for a support unit. The first thing that comes to mind is her amazing debuff protection. With her buffs onto the party, you cannot get debuffed whatsoever. Not having to worry about your team being debuffed is a huge weight off your shoulders whenever you play fights. Along with that, Lenna has really good healing. Lenna is one of the more simple characters on this list, but I still think she's just as good. Next up is Aranea with her amazing rework. Aranea is a great damage dealer with amazing re-breaking and delay, but with her BT effect, she also has horrifying follow-up whenever the enemy is launched. And because her BT effect is 10 turns long, she has a lot of opportunities to utterly annihilate whatever's in front of her. Even if you don't have any other forms of launch in the team, I think Aranea's damage alone will carry. It's really good. And if you pair up Aranea with someone like Quistis, her delays are made that much more broken. So keep that in mind. You can mix and match a lot of these units on the list and come up with some very broken teams. Next up, let's talk about Weiss. He is one of the best off-turn damagers along with Core. The way his damage works is, I believe he has preemptive off-turn damage and also follow-up off-turn damage whenever he moves. Before every enemy's move, Weiss inflicts damage on them, and I believe this happens every single time they move. I have to double check if Weiss still does damage before every party move too. Safe to say, if you add up all of Weiss's preemptive attacks, all of his follow-up attacks, sky's the limit with Weiss's attack. Let's just say that. Let's continue on with Reno. Reno is a godsend for all defensive teams. The way he works is he wants the enemy to take as many turns as possible. He wants the enemy to be constantly attacking, and his HP attack in particular perfectly complements that, because not only does his HP attack do ungodly amounts of damage, but it also delays the entire party for 2 turns, giving the enemies that much more room to attack. And he can spam that HP attack every single time his BT effect is up. So even if the enemy isn't built for hogging a lot of turns, Reno makes it so they hog turns, right? They go move a lot. Reno, in my opinion, is also one of the most fun units in this list to play as, and I am absolutely getting that BT, safe to say. And lastly, I want to talk about Noel. What makes Noel broken is very simple, but very good nonetheless. His FR constantly makes it so the enemy is unbroken. Whenever anyone attacks and the enemy is broken, Noel's FR, if it's active, makes it so the enemy is now unbroken again at 0. And then you do another attack, boom, it's broken. Noel's FR resets it back to 0. You see the pattern that I'm giving you here? You can break the enemy every single turn you do. It's crazy. It's safe to say. So if you're interested in re-breaking in any sort, Noel is an absolute must-have to pull, in my opinion. I have other units that I think are very good, but I'm not sure if they're the most new player friendly in the world. So instead, I'm putting them in a sort of honorable mentions list. We have Noctis, Aerith, and Paine. I have a bit of a very vague breakdown on what each of them do. I do think they're really good units, but for new players, it might be a bit too complicated to use at the moment. I still think they're good regardless, and if you do eventually figure out how they work, they're going to do your teams very well. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!